Hey Lily, it's Mrs. G here. I'm going to just do a really quick to remind you how to do negative spaces. So you're going to need your photograph printed out in black and white. It doesn't have to be this small. Your final one probably should pretty well fill up an 8 by 10 piece of paper, but I'm going to just do this one. And you're going to need a ruler. It's best if you have your plastic see-through ruler, but if you don't have that, any ruler will do for this, and a pencil. What we want to do is we want to trap our bird inside the cage. So remember what we're going to do, or our lion or whatever we have. We're going to find the topmost point of our subject. In this case, it's my bird. I'm going to line my ruler up with it, but I have to make sure that my ruler is nice and straight across here, okay? So where I've got it horizontal, but I want to make sure it would make a 90-degree angle with the edge of my picture. Then I'm going to strike a line, just draw my line right across it, so my bird's head should be touching that line. Then I find what's the outermost right point. I'm going to touch that and line my ruler up, make sure it's totally vertical. So we should have 90-degree corners in this box when we get done. And now my bird cannot move up, nor can it move backwards. I don't care about this thing it's sitting on so much, so I just want my subject here, which is my bird. So again, I'm going to take the bottom of the tail here, making sure that this is nice and horizontal, and I'm going to draw that line. Then my last line is my beak, so I'm going to find that, make sure it's vertical, and I'm going to draw that line. So my bird cannot move forward, backwards, up or down. It is now caged. The next thing that you're going to do is you're going to do this same exact size shape that you have on another piece of paper. You don't need to measure it and draw it on here. If you can, I can't see through this one, but you might be able to see through where the points of where your corners are. I'm going to see if I can see them by making those darker. Yeah, she's upstairs. So I'm going to put a dot in each of the corners. I'm videoing for Lily hearing right now. I'm going to put a dot in each of those corners, hoping that it is darker. And, okay, I still can't really see it, so I'm going to hold it up to the light, and then I'll be able to see it. So I'm going to get this done quick. You can always hold it up to a window, and I should be able to see those. So I'm going to go ahead and, Lily, hold on. I will be right back. I'm going to put it up to the window, so stay with me, Lily. I'm going to the window. Okay.
It doesn't go with anything that we have, because Olivia says it does.
All right.
Can't you talk to Olivia about
So, hey Garrett, I'm trying to videotape for Lily, honey. Okay, so now I've got my piece of paper that has those dots for the corners, and I'm just going to connect the dots with my ruler. So this is going to give me the exact same box that I have my bird in, which is going to mean that I am doing what's called a 1-to-1. So my bird photograph and my bird drawing are going to be exactly the same size. So I'm going to finish that up, and now I have my box. So my bird, my box. Good, you can see them both. Okay, so at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to identify my negative spaces. So my positive space is the thing I want to draw. That's the bird. My negative space is whatever's in the background. So that, in this case, is pretty much the sky. And we're going to pretend this thing doesn't exist here. So I'm just going to take another color just to make it easier for you to see, but you don't have to do this. So if my bird beak touches here, I'm going to just trace until it meets my box again. So that is one negative space right there. And I'm just going to put that in there so you can see it. So that's number one. Okay. Then I'm going to go and see what the next one would be, and that's where the head touches the line. And if I follow this around, like an outline here, it touches the side of my box over there again. Now I'm going to just copy the sides of the box just so you can see it. But again, you don't have to do that part of it. Okay, and now I have this negative space. I'll make it nice and dotty-dotty. Okay. So that's number 2. Coming around again, and I have my tail touches here, And remember, I'm going to forget this thing right here. And so the next time it touches is this beak. So it's pretty big. That one I might want to divide up, because if I have something that big, it can kind of be a pain. So I try to figure out a logical place to divide it up. And I'm going to say where something new starts. I could divide it up here, but that would be too close. So I'm going to divide it up right where the underside of his belly starts. I'm going to do a line straight over here to the side, and that is going to be this area down here. I'm going to make that negative space number 3, and then I have one more left over because I split that one up, and I'll make this one negative space number 4. There might be a little one I end up down there, but I don't really care about that one. Okay, so got all my negative spaces identified. Now it's time to draw them. This is simply, we're not drawing the bird. Remember, if you draw the negative spaces right, then the bird will come out. So I'm going to just draw number 1, and then I'm going to let you go for it. So number 1, we know that this space right here, not the bird, but this space, we can kind of rename it right now. It's basically a weird shaped, it's not really a rectangle. What is that? Is that a trapezoid? I think it's a trapezoid, okay, because the 2 ends go out. So here's what we know. It starts in the corner. We can figure out where it crosses the line next. We can kind of guesstimate. We're not going to do any of our ruler and measuring it because we really don't want to have, we want to learn how to see things. The next thing that I usually do is I'll go to each of these sides and I'll say, for this side, where is about half of this? I'm going to say that's about center. I'm going to do that in each of the sides. That's going to give me a clue. Again, it's just about one. And I'm going to do the same thing over here, is mark where I think center is. If you get a little bit off, that's okay. Okay, so now I can look at this where number 1 is, and I can say, okay, number 1 ends where? It ends here on this top line. Is that up to center, past center, in front of center? Well, we can see it doesn't go all the way to center. So we're going to make that one as far away from center as it is. So I'm going to say it goes to about here. So now I have this point and this point and this point. I just need to find this point right here, and then I can connect the dots. So one of the tricks that I do is there is an angle on it down here. So instead of trying to just say, oh, you know, if obviously it doesn't line up with this point, I have to move over and down, I can do that. That's probably the easiest thing right now. But one thing I know is not only is it not lined up with this point, it's also not lined up with that point. It's down lower. So I'm going to take and I'm going to figure out about how far over I need to move from this point, and then about how far down I need to make, and then I'm going to make my point. Then I'm going to connect my dots, and then I'm going to look at them, and I'm going to ask myself some questions and say, does this look like this? Mine's close, but I think that I have to move this dot a little bit over this way because I feel like this angle is sharper than that one. So I can make my adjustment. Okay, and now I have pretty close to what that shape is, my first shape. So that's number 1. Then I'm going to move on to number 2, number 3, number 4, and then I should see my bird inside. And then I can start, once my bird is done, so let's say I renamed this big sluggy thing over here. It looks kind of like a shoe if I turn my sheet sideways. So I can draw this weird shoe shape, or it's a weird little mountain to go skiing on. Draw all these little shapes by renaming them. Once I get them all in, I'm going to pretend I've actually done it here because this is, I'm not going to think too much about this, so sorry, Lily. This is not going to be perfect because I'm going to do it quick. Okay, so I got that shape in, and then I'm going to go ahead. His tail kind of rides down here, goes to here. Okay, I know that it divides this up about a half of a half, goes straight over for a while. Then it has to, I'm going to work backwards right now because that's a little easier. So this goes here and then up to here. Now I have that little funky shape in. Now I just got to get his belly in. So instead of thinking belly, I'm going to think this little, it looks like a part of a bell, like the Liberty Bell, but a flatter top. I'm gonna draw my Liberty Bell. And lo and behold, I have my little hummingbird. Now I can go back to this and I can make my adjustments on if everything is looking good. And after that, I can forget all about negative shapes and I can start adding the details. But I still can use the box on the outside to see how far things go. And I use the drawing outline of my bird to figure out where the stuff on the inside would touch. Okay, get all this done, then let me know and I will send you the paper that you're going to be putting this on, and I'll give you the instructions on how to do the crazy charcoal project that we're into doing right now. All right, Lil, so I love you, girl. If you have any questions, give me a yell. You can also ask Olivia too if you happen to be over there and you can't quite figure out what in the world I was talking about. She knows how to do this too. And I'll see you soon. Love ya.